Ah, Vancouver. One of the best cities in the world. Surprisingly mild for a place in Canada. Known for its beautiful mountains, gorgeous parks, that salty ocean smell, endless rain, and supercars with ensigns. And what better way to experience it than by going on the famous seawall? At 28 kilometers long, it is the world's longest uninterrupted waterfront path, allowing Vancouver to add yet another item on its long list of things to brag about to the rest of the country. In fact, the seawall has become one of the most famous tourist attractions in the entire city. It's a big draw for a lot of the millions of tourists that visit each year. It even has an almost perfect rating on TripAdvisor and, at the time of recording, is the number 3 recommended thing to do in Vancouver, behind Granville Island, and the winner, of course, Stanley Park. In fact, the seawall represents so much more to the people of Vancouver than most outsiders think. It's an essential part of Vancouver's identity. You see, Vancouverites believe that most of the best waterfront should belong to everyone, regardless of income or mobility issues. Anyone can come down to the waterfront for recreation, and private property usually has to stay back. This makes the seawall perhaps the only wall in the world that connects the people around it rather than separates them. But wait, could it be that this symbol of Vancouver's values is actually a bad thing? According to a bunch of ocean scientists and environmentalists, the seawall may need to come down. To see how we got here, it helps to go back a century. The seawall construction started in 1917 to protect Stanley Park's delicate sandstone from the inevitable progress of time. But there is a problem. You see, turns out the seawall is an arcane conception from a time period when mankind didn't really care about the environment, and women weren't even legally considered persons. Back in 1926, soon after the first parts of the seawall were built around Stanley Park, this is how Stanley Park looked, in this beautiful public domain image. You see, when water washes gently onto the beach, there is minimal erosion. But when waves crash against the seawall, it not only makes the waves much more violent, but it also causes the sandy area just in front of the seawall, called the intertidal zone, to erode much faster than it otherwise would. And since the wall holds things back just as well on the mainland as it does on the water, no sand can come down and replace the eroding sand in the intertidal zone, thereby destroying a valuable habitat for starfish and crabs. No word yet about SpongeBob. So some are proposing radical new ideas like rebuilding the coast by removing the wall, dredging up sand from the bottom of the ocean, and then depositing it on the beach. This is called beach nourishment. It's way better than a seawall during extreme weather events. Think about it, a large wave can crash over a seawall much more easily than a 50-meter wide beach. Unfortunately, there is a problem with beach nourishment. You basically have to redo it every few years, so it's not really a permanent solution. It's also not very cheap either, and it doesn't really provide a stable habitat for those concerned about wildlife. Other people, even more radical, want the seawall to come down and let the ocean have its way. Part of the reason is that it costs the city of Vancouver millions of dollars each year in repair costs, and climate change is only going to make these costs even higher. A 2015 report found that raising the seawall by roughly 2 meters to tackle the effects of climate change in False Creek alone would add up to almost $1 billion in 2021. Another report, commissioned 2 years prior, found that the cost of demolishing and rebuilding the seawall in Stanley Park to be around $130 million. This has led many to believe the correct course of action is to dismantle the seawall, but doing so would also demolish one of the cornerstones of Vancouver and let West Vancouver lord their seawalk over those on the other side of the inlet. By the way, who names these places? Within Metro Vancouver, there is the City of Vancouver, which has the sea wall, West Vancouver, who has the sea walk, then there's North Vancouver, but should also not be confused with North Vancouver, the district, because why not? We really need some creativity in our naming. Anyways, where was I? Oh yes. The seawall is ridiculously expensive to maintain and will need to be rebuilt to adapt to climate change. Rather than tackle these difficult decisions, So far, the politicians are punting, simply repairing wherever they can instead of coming up with a 21st century solution to balance conservation with tourism. Some solutions thrown around involve crisscrossing paths through Stanley Park to avoid needing to go down to the waterfront at all. But over-tourism in Stanley Park has its own complications too. So for now, nobody wants to dramatically rebuild most of downtown Vancouver, and the wall remains mostly in its current state, getting regular patches, as it desperately tries to stave off the ocean for yet another year. We may have delayed the erosion for now, but one day, when we are all dead from a super deadly AI created by Elon Musk to pump meme stocks, the ocean will finally have its way and devour Stanley Park once and for all, making all of our hard work for naught. So enjoy the view while you can.